What's good, everybody? Welcome to Life on Beagle Road. Our meat birds have been delivered, so it's time to get our butts in gear, folks. We've got a brooder to make, and we've got to get those chicks where they belong, so let's get to it.
I have a lot of scrap lumber just kind of laying around the shop, so even though I didn't really need to build a brooder, I wanted to reuse a bunch of the materials that I had in the shop rather than just go out and buy one or, just go buy new materials. Why not? Use what you got for the most part. So I grabbed some stuff, measured it to length, and once I had that done, I took it over to the chop saw and chopped it up. Now, keep in mind, my measurements sometimes aren't always the greatest, but it all worked out in the end. Once I had those all cut up, I had to figure out what I was going to use for the sides. I looked around the shop and I found some pieces that were actually meant for our kidding stalls that I figured, all right, well, I can repurpose these. They'll be the exact size I need. They'll fit inside a kidding stall and they'll be perfect. All I had to figure out was how I was going to screw everything together. I decided to screw basically like a cleat on two sides of each panel, and then I could actually screw in the other sides to those panels. So I took some drywall screws and just took both panels and put drywall screws in real quick. One thing I recommend for anybody who's going to do a project is to have a set of clamps. So valuable. It's like having 50 extra sets of hands whenever you need to do something. I cannot tell you how valuable clamps are. Get some 6, some 12, some 24s, some 36s, whichever. You can get them at Harbor Freight, super cheap, and they're not that bad of a quality, but I would definitely recommend you getting them. Alright, I had to get this thing onto the floor, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. It was very heavy, and, I got a terrible back. What I'm doing here is just kind of setting the piece on the top. Again, I've got 4 hands here with these clamps, and then I went around and attached it with each clamp in each corner, so that way when I went to screw everything in, it was all nice and solid. For the lid, I needed a piece of wood, and I had some of this like scrap. It's like $5, utility board from Home Depot. So I ran it across my planer, totally unnecessary, but I wanted some clean edges so that way when I had them all cut up and I started attaching them, I had a clean edge that I could glue and it wasn't going to cause me issues. Took it over to the chop saw, chopped it all up. Drilled in some holes. These are pocket holes. That's an armor jig. I like the Craig jig a little bit more than this, but this one is auto adjustable and I can't complain about it. So it's pretty awesome actually. But put pocket holes in either side and then I would be ready to screw them all in. I love putting my glue in a mustard container. People ask me about this all the time, but the glue comes out very easily, very smooth, and a nice little stream instead of coming out in a big glob like the regular glue bottles. The nice thing about using pocket holes is that your joints are going to end up being fairly square when you're all done. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. It's way better than, trying to screw it in a different way. The joints are solid. As long as you're using glue, it's going to be great. Again, look, way too heavy for me to lift, but what are you going to do? Next, I needed to find some hinges, so I had some old ones that I can reuse. Emerson decided to hang out with me in the shop, because she's got schoolwork to do, so she's hanging out with me. I put 3 hinges on the back. I probably only needed to use 2, but you know, 3 was good enough.
My battery's dying.
Now I gotta put on the fencing. I had this huge roll of mesh netting. What is it? It's probably like a 1/4 inch, not even that. I got this from a friend of mine when I helped him clean up his shed. He had it in the corner and was like, hey, if you want that, I don't need it. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So I took it, and look, it's already come into handy. I actually had to use 2 runs of it. So this overlaps in the middle, which isn't a big deal. I decided to put in a block in the front. I put a block on the lid as well. This block is going to help me to be able to put an eye bolt through here. So I'm drilling the hole. Now I'm going to put the eye bolt in, and this is going to be the mechanism that helps me to lock the box up. I don't really need to lock the box up, except I have a 5-year-old who loves to get in with the chicks, and this was a little bit tricky for her to figure out. So I was like, all right, this is gonna work. And what's wrong with a little extra security, right? I kind of really love how this works too. You just kind of pull it through each loop, get it onto that ball, bang. Works, I love it. This is good stuff. Everything's working out well. Now it's time to get it out into the barn. I wanted to keep the chicks in the barn so we could kind of keep all of our messes in the same place, keep all of our food and stuff in the same place. Courtney actually had this fence here that made it really difficult for me to get in there.
Why your mom had to put the fence there is beyond me.
Since we have power in the barn, it made it easier for me to put a light in, put in a heat pad or whatever it is. It's just this thing that generates heat, like a Brooder mat thingy majigger.
Now we're gonna pivot. Pivot. Pivot this way. Pivot. Why are you bending over?
I don't even know.
I don't know either. Keep pivot. Keep going. Pivot. Pivot.
I am pivoting.
Off camera, I had actually put cleats in on the inside of this thing, almost like 2 sliding cleats. You'll see here in a second. I cut boards up so that way I could make dividers. This is so that way if I wanted to have just half of it with chicks in it, and then I could use the other half as like the next route, so I could clean up the right side, put the chicks over on the left, and then vice versa. And then one day when we had like 100 chicks, I could fit 100 chicks in there. We're only going to have like 25 to 28 chicks in there. I really love how these boards worked out, and they worked out way better than expected.
Then what we can do is just put these in here. Look at that. Come on. I didn't even think of that.
Once all was said and done, Robbie and I put the chicks in the brooder, loaded it up. This is always Robbie's favorite part because he gets to touch all the birds. Who doesn't love to touch baby chicks, right? Chicks are so happy in there. They're eating, they're drinking, they're making a mess, doing exactly what it is that they're supposed to do. I couldn't be happier with this brooder box.
Oh look, still walking on the top of this thing. Well, that defeated the whole purpose. Alright, the chicks have been in here for about a week. Everything is going fantastic. I can't tell you how much I love this brooder. This is probably the best decision I ever made. What's really cool is it's high enough from here down that I can kind of stack on top instead of having to move them over right away. So I've got like a couple days where I can, you know, wait until I move them to the next section. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you got something out of it for sure. In case you want to make your own brooder, come back and see the growth that these birds make, the growth that our farm is making. If you liked the way I did the video today, please let me know in the comments below. It's a little bit of a different style than you're used to from me, so I'd like to get some feedback from all of you. Have a great day, and keep on keeping on.